Making the headlines tonight. Prime Minister Hun Sen meets with Myanmar military leader General Min Aung Hlaing for the third time since January. Prime Minister Hun Sen and First Lady Bunrani Hun Sen congratulate the Muslim community in Cambodia on the end of their month of fasting during Ramadan. Dozens of civilians arrive at a temporary accommodation center after being evacuated from the bunkers of Mariupol's Azovstal steel plant. Ducati's Francesco Bagnaia of Italy won his duel with world champion Fabio Quartararo of Yamaha at the Spanish Grand Prix in Jerez. And the rural town of Otumba, Mexico dedicates the Labor Day holiday to their hardworking donkeys. This is the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. I'm Darshana Gauchan. Prime Minister Hun Sen met with the military leader of Myanmar, General Min Aung Hlaing, through an online video conference on Monday morning. This is the third meeting between the two leaders since Prime Minister Hun Sen visited the general in Myanmar on 7th January 2022. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has further details.
Among those attending the meeting with Prime Minister Hun Sen and Senior General Min Aung Hlaing were the Cambodian Foreign Minister and Special Envoy of the ASEAN Chair for Myanmar, Deputy Prime Minister Prat Sokhonn, the Secretary of State for the Cambodian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Iet Sopia, and the three assistants of the Prime Minister, Sri Thammarong, Kai Kum-hun, and Ieng Sopolite. According to a statement released on the outcomes of the meeting by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Prime Minister Hun Sen thanked Senior General Min Aung Hlaing for facilitating the Special Envoy of the ASEAN Chair's visit to Myanmar on 21st to 22nd of March 2022 and highlighted the widely expressed aspiration from all quarters to see more speedy progress on achieving the three immediate priorities of the five-point consensus. These immediate priorities are the cessation of violence, unhindered humanitarian delivery to the people of Myanmar who are in most need, and building trust and confidence to engender an inclusive political dialogue. In response, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing expressed appreciation for Cambodia's efforts to assist Myanmar in finding a peaceful solution to the current crisis and briefed Prime Minister Hun Sen on the latest situation in Myanmar, including response to persistent violence, overture to negotiate a ceasefire agreement with all ethnic armed organizations, and the distribution of the donation of COVID-19 vaccines and medical supplies to 58 hospitals and health centers in Myanmar. The senior general also offered to further facilitate the ASEAN Special Envoy's engagement with the ethnic armed organizations as part of the effort to end violence. Prime Minister Hun Sen welcomed the goodwill expressed by Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, but also pointed out that it is important to avoid excessive use of force in maintaining law and order. In regard to the consultative meeting on humanitarian assistance in Myanmar to be held in Phnom Penh on the 6th of May 2022, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing confirmed that the chairman of the Myanmar's task force for coordinating humanitarian assistance will lead a delegation to attend this event. Prime Minister Hun Sen also welcomed the release of over 1,600 prisoners during Myanmar's traditional New Year celebrated in April and recalled his earlier request for the release of all political detainees, including Professor Sean Turnell of Australia. The Prime Minister re-emphasized the importance of access for the Special Envoy to meet all parties concerned in Myanmar, including Daw Aung San Suu Kyi and former President Win Myint, to create a conducive environment to start an inclusive political dialogue. Senior General Min Aung Hlaing pledged to facilitate meetings with other parties concerned in response. Concluding the meeting, Prime Minister Hun Sen affirmed Cambodia's commitment to assisting Myanmar's return to democracy in line with the ASEAN five-point consensus and the unity and centrality of ASEAN 10. Prime Minister Hun Sen previously met with Myanmar's military leader Min Aung Hlaing twice, once in person on the 7th of January 2022 and once through a video call in February. At both these previous meetings, the Prime Minister pushed for a solution for Myanmar and reminded the military leader to honor his promises. Dekanin, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen announced the opening of his official Instagram account on the morning of Monday, 2nd May, through his official Facebook page. The Prime Minister wrote, "In the past, I posted pictures on the account named Tasan. From now on, I will use the account in the picture attached as my official account on Instagram." Prime Minister Hun Sen's official Instagram can be followed under the handle @HunSenCambodia. His new account is now using his own photo and currently has 80.1 thousand followers and 59 posts. Prime Minister Hun Sen and First Lady Bunrani Hun Sen sent congratulations and good wishes to the Muslim community in Cambodia for the end of their month of fasting during Ramadan. Taking this opportunity, the Prime Minister also thanked all Khmer Muslims who have joined with other Cambodians in maintaining peace and having faith in the Cambodian People's Party. EAC News reporter Deka Nin has more details.
In the letter released by the Prime Minister on Sunday, 1st of May 2022, wishing all Khmer Muslims who successfully completed Ramadan and will be happy to welcome it on Monday, the Prime Minister wrote, "I would like to express my deepest wishes and gratitude to the Cambodian Muslims who have joined with other Cambodians in maintaining peace, those who adhere to different religions and have believed in the leadership of the Prime Minister and the Cambodian People's Party from the beginning." The Prime Minister also thanked Cambodian Muslims for their contribution to the royal government in successfully preventing the spread of COVID-19 by strictly complying with the laws, decisions, directives, and measures set by the royal government. On this occasion, the Prime Minister also invited all members of the Muslim community to participate in the booster dose vaccination campaign to receive their third, fourth, and possibly fifth dose to protect against COVID-19. Dekanin, EAC News.
The Minister of Interior, Deputy Prime Minister Saw King, announced that he will depart to France on Monday, 2nd May, to undergo a health checkup. The Deputy Prime Minister is set to return next week. In a statement issued on Monday, 2nd May 2022, the Minister of Interior's cabinet stated that his current visit to France comes after the Deputy Prime Minister underwent a successful medical examination and treatment in France in early September 2021, and it was the doctor's requirement to return for a health checkup. In September 2021, Deputy Prime Minister Saw King was absent from the country for 2 weeks as he underwent a medical examination and surgery in France, although his diagnosis has not been publicly announced. It was falsely reported by the opposition at the time that the Deputy Prime Minister also planned to meet with former opposition leader Sam Rainsy. However, this claim was immediately rejected by the Deputy Prime Minister's cabinet. The Smithsonian's National Museum of Asian Art in the United States will display a 1,500-year-old statue of the Hindu god Krishna from Phnom Da Temple in Angkor Borei District, Takeo Province, Cambodia. EAC News reporter Deka Nin has the story.
According to a press release from the U.S. Embassy in Cambodia, a 1,500-year-old Hindu statue of the Hindu god Krishna and other Cambodian artifacts will be on display at the Smithsonian National Museum of Asian Art in Washington, D.C. from the 30th of April to the 18th of September 2022. The display of these ancient Cambodian artifacts is the result of the long-standing cooperation between the United States and Cambodia on cultural preservation. According to the U.S. Embassy statement, the exhibition is titled Revealing Krishna, Journey to Cambodia's Sacred Mountain, and will feature the sculpture of Hindu god Krishna lifting Mount Govardhan to protect his people from a torrential storm sent by an angry god. U.S. Ambassador to the Kingdom of Cambodia, W. Patrick Murphy, said he encourages the public to go and see this special exhibition in a video posted by the U.S. Embassy on their official Facebook page. He said, "I am proud of our long-standing efforts and cooperation in the preservation, restoration, and display of Cambodia's great heritage around the world." This exhibition was previously held at the Cleveland Museum of Art. Since 2001, the United States has provided more than $5 million to Cambodia for cultural conservation work through the Ambassador's Fund for Cultural Preservation and other grants. Dekanin, EAC News.
The Khmer Rouge Tribunal will hold a workshop on victims and dissemination of the advisory report on victim-related activities of the ECCC during the residual phase from 3rd to 5th May 2022 at Hyatt Hotel, Phnom Penh. Khmer Rouge Tribunal spokesman Net Piektra told a news conference on Monday morning that the workshop aims to highlight the participation of victims in the tribunal's work, implementation, and residual work before the tribunal's official closing at the end of 2022. The workshop will also receive suggestions from victims of the Khmer Rouge during the tribunal process to review and implement activities. The spokesman said, "Lessons learned from our work with the victims as well as with the various chambers of the tribunal will provide values and principles to be followed for future implementation of our programs, as well as what else must be done so that the Cambodian people, especially those born after the Democratic Kampuchea regime, can remember the tragic history of the Democratic Kampuchea regime and participate in the process of national reconciliation, the psychological reconciliation of victims of this regime, especially those who survived the Khmer Rouge, and other projects in the future. On Tuesday, the workshop titled Victims and Dissemination of the Advisory Report on Victim-Related Activities of the ECCC during the Residual Phase will commence, with the participation of plaintiff victims, civil, state, and non-governmental organization representatives, and diplomats. The extraordinary chambers in the courts of Cambodia is scheduled to close by the end of 2022 after more than 16 years of operation. Following the proceedings, the tribunal will continue its work in the first 3 years, including compiling victims' memories as lessons and disseminating the chamber's archives. The Khmer Rouge Tribunal began its work in early February 2006 and has thus far completed 4 cases, including Case 001 on the former Tuol Sleng prison chief Kang Gek Iev, also known as Duch, Case 00201 on Khieu Samphuan and Nuon Chia, Case 00401 dropping the charges against Hum Chaim, and Case 00402 dropping the charges against Ao An. To date, this hybrid tribunal has spent more than $335 million, of which more than $98 million came from the royal government of Cambodia. Pria Sihanouk Provincial Gendarmerie Officer Cheko and 1 other person were arrested by the provincial police after being suspected of shooting and killing a person at the Two Lions Roundabout in Sihanoukville. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has more details.
The 2 individuals were arrested on Sunday morning after the victim was shot around 12:30 p.m. Currently, both have been sent to the provincial gendarmerie to continue the legal process. According to a witness, before the incident, they saw 2 motorcycles riding beside each other along Road Dragon Tail Road. When they reached the roundabout, both drivers stopped and had an argument. The assailant, Officer Cheko, seen beating the victim and then went to retrieve a gun from his motorcycle and hit the victim on the head before shooting him. After the incident, Sihanoukville police arrested Officer Cheko along with 1 other person and took them in for questioning. The body of the victim was taken to the provincial referral hospital for forensic examination, then handed over to the victim's relatives for the traditional funeral ceremony. Dekanin EAC News.
Cambodia has reported 2 new COVID-19 cases, none of which were imported. There have been 21 patient recoveries and no new deaths. The kingdom has now recorded 15,813 cases of Omicron, 1,362 imported, and 14,451 community cases. Cambodia's COVID-19 case tally has now climbed to 136,254. The death toll stands at 3,056. The number of patients treated successfully since the pandemic reached Cambodia is 133,116, and the tally for imported cases stands at 21,219. Healthcare workers are currently treating a total of 5 patients. And now for a look at news making international headlines this Monday, 2nd May.
U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi said America stands with Ukraine until victory is won at a news conference in Rzeszów, Poland on Sunday, May 1st. Do not be bullied by bullies. If they're making threats, you cannot back down, said Pelosi, the highest-ranking U.S. official to visit Ukraine since Russia invaded on February 24th. She condemned Russian President Vladimir Putin's diabolic invasion. If Putin uses unconventional weapons, including chemical weapons or strategical nukes, all bets are off, said Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Gregory Meeks at the same news conference. Moscow says its action aims to disarm Ukraine and rid of anti-Russian nationalism fomented by the West. Ukraine and the West say Russia launched an unprovoked war of aggression. Pelosi's delegation is set to meet with Polish President Andrzej Duda and other senior officials on Monday, May 2nd.
making threats.
A military junta in Guinea said its transition back to civilian rule will probably take more than 3 years, a proposal likely to upset West Africa political bloc that has called for a swift return to constitutional orders after last year's coup. Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, the head of the junta that took power in September, told state television late on Saturday, April 30, that after political consultations, he was ordering a transition of 39 months, the first month he has proposed a timeline. The CNOD, the National Release and Development Committee, and the government in turn will submit to the CNT, the National Transitional Council, which serve as a parliament. This proposal, which is the result of extensive and patient consultations, Doumbouya said in the televised address from Bofa, some 120 kilometers west from the capital, Conakry. Guinea's former president Alpha Condé had been detained since last September when special forces troops overthrew him on allegations of fostering endemic state corruption. However, Condé was released in late April. Then, interim government said on state television, military leaders have snatched power in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Guinea over the last 2 years, raising concerns of a backslide in democracy in West Africa that over the past decade had begun to seed its reputation as a coke belt. The coups have put the countries at odds with the region's main political and economic bloc. The Economics Committee of West African States, ECOWAS, which is trying to put power back in civilian hands.
UNHCR Special Envoy and U.S. actor Angelina Jolie visited a railway station in the Ukrainian city of Lviv on Saturday. Jolie met with and spoke to volunteers about the trauma of war and the support they had been given, especially to children.
I know that just having somebody show how much they matter, how much their voices matter, I know how healing that.
One volunteer had described how in a 24-hour period there could be 15 people that needed help. She ended her visit short when an air raid sirens blast. As she rushed out to safety, fans couldn't help themselves from asking for her selfies. At one point during her visit to the station, she tickled a small girl dressed in red who laughed out in delight. The UN Refugee Agency is expecting some 8.3 million people to flee Ukraine this year, revising up its previous projection. More than 12.7 million people have fled their homes in the past 2 months, including 7.7 million people displaced internally and more than 5 million who have fled over borders, UNHCR spokesperson Shabia Mantou told a UN news briefing. The 1st of May marks both International Workers' Day, also known as Labor Day, and May Day, an ancient European festival celebrating the beginning of the summer. Due to its association with the labor holiday, May Day has become a popular day of protest for labor unions. However, more recently, it has become a popular day for protests in general. Here's a look at some of this year's May Day celebrations and protests around the world. Thousands of people joined May Day protests across France on Sunday to demand social justice and salary increases and to push newly re-elected President Emmanuel Macron to drop his plan to raise the retirement age. The cost of living was the main theme in the presidential election campaign and looks set to be equally prominent ahead of June legislative elections that Macron's party and its allies must win if he is to be able to implement his pro-business policies, including increasing retirement age to 65 for 62. About 250 rallies were organized in Paris and other cities, including Lille, Nantes, Toulouse, and Marseille. In the French capital, trade unionists were joined by political figures, mostly from the left, and climate activists. Marchers carried banners reading "Retirement before arthritis," "Retirement at 60, freeze prices," and "Macron, get out." German Chancellor Olaf Scholz spoke at a May Day rally of unions in Dusseldorf on Sunday, facing protesters holding signs reading "Olaf Scholz, not my Chancellor," and calling him warmonger as he defended German arms delivered to Ukraine. "I respect any pacifism, I respect any attitude, but it must seem cynical to a citizen of Ukraine to be told to fight back against Putin's aggressions without weapons," Scholz said, addressing those who say delivering heavy weapons to Ukraine risks provoking a Russian military response in a third country and sparking a broader conflict. Scholz is under pressure at home and abroad to supply Ukraine with heavy arms, such as tanks and howitzers, and support an immediate EU embargo on Russian energy imports to strip President Vladimir Putin of hard currency that helps him finance the war.
Wenn ihm gesagt wird, solle sich
Thousands of Cubans made their way to Havana's Revolution Square on Sunday for the traditional May Day celebrations, attended by President Miguel Diaz-Canel, who looked on with former President Raul Castro. Following a 2-year hiatus as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, this year marks the return of the nation's most important holiday after Jan 1st, the victory day of former leader Fidel Castro's 1959 revolution. Like in many other countries around the world, May 1st is recognized as Labor Day in Cuba. Cuba has marked International Workers' Day since 1890, though massive rallies in Revolution Square took off in earnest after the 1959 revolution. Dozens of mothers and family members of missing migrants marched from Ciudad Hidalgo, Chiapas on Sunday in search of their loved ones. Carrying photographs, banners, and flags, the caravan headed towards Mexico City seeking for answers. Each year, thousands of migrants go missing in Mexico without proper investigations from the authorities. Families of the missing migrants demand action from the authorities in the search for their loved ones. In more Latin American countries, thousands marched through the streets of Buenos Aires, Caracas, La Paz, and Lima on Sunday to raise their voices against social injustice and demand better labor conditions during May Day. Struck by unfavorable economic conditions, high inflation, and rising prices, worsened by the war in Ukraine, various Latin American countries battle to maintain competitiveness in the global market. In Lima, Peruvian President Pedro Castillo expressed his recognition to the workers of Peru for their efforts and permanent sacrifice to fight for justice. In Caracas, President Nicolas Maduro gave a news conference announcing there would be a rise in wages for Venezuelan workers. May Day, an annual holiday, is observed all over the world to celebrate the economic and social achievements of workers. The celebration of Labor Day has its origins in the 8-hour day movement, which advocated 8 hours for work, 8 hours for recreation, and 8 hours for rest. Dozens of civilians arrived at a temporary accommodation center on Sunday after being evacuated from the bunkers of Mariupol's Azovstal steel plant after the United Nations and the International Red Cross led a deal to ease the ordeal of the most destructive siege of the war in Ukraine.
Russian forces pummeled a port city for nearly 2 months, turning Mariupol into a wasteland with an unknown death toll and thousands trying to survive without water, sanitation, or food. The city is under Russian control, but some fighters and civilians have sheltered underground in the Azovstal Works, a vast Soviet-era plant founded under Joseph Stalin and designed to be a labyrinth of bunkers and tunnels to withstand attack. The United Nations later said that an operation to evacuate people from the steelworks had been underway since Friday. The UN spokesperson Xaviano Abreu said the UN confirms that a safe passage operation is ongoing in Azovstal steel plant in coordination with the ICRC, International Committee of the Red Cross, and the parties to the conflict. He added, at this point and as the operations are underway, we will not share further details as it could jeopardize the safety of the civilians and the convoy. The ICRC said the convoy had traveled 230 kilometers to reach the steel works. A Reuters photographer reported seeing civilians arriving in the village of Bezemin in an area of Donetsk under the control of Russia-backed separatists around 30 kilometers east of Mariupol. They were receiving refreshments and care after weeks of suffering. Young children were among those evacuated from the plant, where people cowered underground, huddling together under blankets in the plant's bunkers and tunnels as the shelling tore their city apart.
Afghans prepared to celebrate Eid al-Fitr under the Taliban rule for the first time in 20 years. People crowded the markets on Sunday to buy goods, but many expressed their worries about the dire economic situation.
Many shoppers complained about high price, and shop owners said they will worry about the lack of sales.
It is clear for everyone that in previous regime, the economic situation for everyone was good, and buying and selling of the dry fruits were far better than now.
I come to market to buy groceries. The cost of every item has doubled. Things we used to be 100 F and now it is 200. In past, I could buy 2 to 3 kilo of each item. Pear, beans. Now I cannot afford to buy even 1 kilo. I request the government to control the price of everything.
Prime Minister Mohamed Hassan Akud delivered his Eid speech and congratulated the people on celebrating the Muslim festival. But at the amusement park, the celebration mood is lackluster, as Kabul residents said it is less colorful than the past.
This is as less colorful than before, and the reason is people are worried about the situation. They are upset because the economic situation is not good at all and unemployment has increased.
The World Bank earlier in April issued a dire outlook for Afghanistan economy, noting that per capita income has fallen by over a third in the last 4 months of 2021, following the seizures of power by Islamic Taliban as U.S. lead foreign forces withdraw. It said around 37% of Afghan households did not have enough money to cover food, while 33% could afford food but nothing more.
After the break, a look at all the latest sports news.
If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Ducati's Francesco Bagnaia of Italy won his duel with world champion Fabio Quartararo of Yamaha in commanding fashion as he clinched his first victory of the season at the Spanish Grand Prix in Jerez on Sunday.
Aprilia's Alex Espargaro of Spain overcame a slow start to secure third, while 6-time MotoGP world champion and local favorite Marc Marquez held off Bagnaia's teammate Jack Miller to take fourth. Pole-sitter Bagnaia, who set a new lap record at the Jerez circuit, is qualifying on Saturday, April 30th, flew out of the traps and never relinquished first place despite a late charge from Quartararo, who was chasing his second win in Spain. Suzuki's Alex Rins, who was joint leader in the World Championship coming into the race, went off the track on turn 12th and finished 19th, while Pramac Ducati also had a forgettable outing, with Johan Zarco crashing out and Jorge Martin finishing 22nd. Frenchman Quartararo now leads Espargaro by 7 points in the overall standings. Ai Ugura of Japan led from the start to finish for the first Moto2 victory of his career. He won by 2.509 seconds from Spaniard Aaron Carney, who was riding with a broken left radius and right fingers sustained in a crash last weekend. Italy's Tony Arbolino was third, a further 1.160 seconds back. Championship leader Celestino Vietti was 6th and is now 19 points ahead of Ogura in second place, with Arbolino third 11 points behind. Izan Guevara of Spain produced a superb maneuver on the final bend to win a thrilling Moto3 race. Lying third on the last lap behind Turkey's Deniz Oncu and championship leader Sergio Garcia of Spain, Guevara swept around the outside of them both going into the finishing straight to take the lead and win by 0.061 seconds from Garcia. Another Spaniard, Juanme Macia, forced his way into third, relegating Oncu to fourth with just 0.847 seconds covering the first 6 riders. The result extended Garcia's lead in the championship to 21 points from Italy's Dennis Foggia, who could only finish 18th. Guevara moved up to third, 9 points further back. In the Moto E LCR-E team, Eric Granado made it to 2 for 2 in the opening weekend of the FIM Inel Moto E World Cup with a superb win in race 2 on Sunday after having won race 1 on Saturday, April 30th.
Boxing legend Manny Pacquiao may have signed up for his toughest fight yet in running for president of the Philippines, facing doubts about his leadership and commitment as a lawmaker that could dent his appeal and deal a big blow to his ambitions.
Hi Manny, welcome back. Lala Rock and Peace.
The 42-year-old announced his candidacy in September last year, declaring his readiness to rise the challenge of leadership and battle poverty and corruption. As an 8 divisions world champion, Pacquiao is a national treasure, but analysts say he faced a huge challenge to convince the electorate he can lead a national beset by problems ranging from crime, craft, and national disasters to Islamic extremists, outdated infrastructures, and bloated bureaucracy. Pacquiao is no political neophyte, having served as both congressmen and senators. Winning election with ease due to his mass appeal as one of the world boxing all-time greats and his rag to riches life story. His commitment to public service has also been questioned, with poor attendance in Congress and lengthy disappearance as a senator while training for big money fights abroad. With the Constitution only allowing a single term as a president, Pacquiao will not have to take on populist incumbent Rodrigo Duterte, but he could face formidable opponent in his daughter Sara Duterte Carpio, who looks to have inherited her father's cult-like following. Despite repeatedly saying she will not run, Duterte Carpio, 43, has topped every opinion poll this year on preferred candidates. As a senator, Pacquiao allied himself with Duterte, backing his bloody wars on drugs and pushing to reintroduce the death penalty, but has sought to distance himself lately, complaining the governments of graft and criticizing Duterte's inaction against perceived China aggression in the South China Sea. Striking off his low rating in opinion polls, Pacquiao says his impoverished roots make him the best person to be president, as he warns voters to avoid corruption-tainted candidates. Pacquiao questioned why people support Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the current frontrunner for the B9 vote, pointing to the plunderings the country involved during the harsh authoritarian rule of his fathers and namesakes. Pacquiao is training for 4th place on 6% in the latest opinion polls held in early April, well behind Marcos, who is leading with 56%.
Thousands of people lined up to pay their respects to Canadian hockey legend Guy Lafleur as he lay in state Sunday at the Bell Centre in Montreal, Quebec. Lafleur will continue to lie in state at the home arena of the Montreal Canadiens through Monday before being honored with a state funeral on May 3rd at the Marie-Reine du Monde Cathedral in downtown Montreal. Lafleur died on April 22nd at age 70. He was a native of Quebec and played 16 of his 17 NHL seasons in the province. Nicknamed the Flower, Lafleur was a 5-time Stanley Cup champion for the Montreal Canadiens and twice won the Hart Trophy as NHL MVP. He also won the Conn Smythe Trophy in 1977 as MVP of the playoffs. After 14 seasons with the Canadiens, he played 1 season with the New York Rangers and 2 with the Quebec Nordiques before retiring in 1991. A Hockey Hall of Fame member, Lafleur had been battling lung cancer and other ailments since 2019. Fellow former Canadian stars Maurice Richard and Jean Béliveau also had state funerals in 2000 and 2014 respectively. And now for a look at how the weather will be playing out tomorrow. And finally, while most of Latin America celebrates Labor Day on May 1st, the rural town of Otumba, Mexico dedicates the holiday to their hardworking donkeys.
Por seguridad de ustedes, que tengan mucho cuidado. Y ya viene la segunda eliminatoria.
In the 16th century rural town in the state of Mexico, donkeys are kings for a day as residents and visitors celebrate their burros. Thousands of families turned out for the traditional donkey day to attend donkey races, polo marches, and a costume competition. Spectators fawned over dozens of donkeys dressed from head to hoof in a wide variety of costumes such as Mexican television characters. Farmer Agustin Franco, who participated with his donkey in the costume competition, is thankful for the hard work of his donkey. He said that the donkey is good and holy to him and helps him a lot, especially with financial alleviation and transportation. The origins of Mexico's Donkey Festival are said to be traced back some 60 years ago. Otumba residents who rely heavily on donkeys decided they deserve their own day of honor.
Thank you for watching the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. For more breaking news and updates, you can check out our website, eacnews.asia, or search EAC News on Smart TV, Telegram, or at your favorite app store. More from the EAC News team tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We will see you then.